Tommy Martinez had been cleaning floors for 3 years at the military base. Every morning at 5 a.m., he would arrive with his mop bucket and cleaning supplies. The soldiers barely noticed him as he moved quietly through the halls, wiping away footprints and spills. Tommy was just 19 years old. He dropped out of college when his father got sick. The cleaning job at Fort Braxton paid enough to help his family pay medical bills. It wasn't glamorous work, but Tommy took pride in keeping the base spotless. On this particular Tuesday morning, everything seemed normal. Tommy filled his bucket with soapy water and began his usual route. Started in the main corridor, then moved to the officers' quarters. The base was quieter than usual. Most soldiers were out on training exercises. As Tommy mopped near the communications room, he heard unusual sounds. Radio chatter was more intense than normal. Voices sounded urgent, almost panicked. He tried not to listen. But words like breach and immediate threat caught his attention. Tommy continued cleaning, but something felt different. The few soldiers he saw were moving faster, their faces more serious. Security guards at various checkpoints were checking IDs more carefully. Even the cafeteria staff seemed nervous. Around 9 a.m., alarms began blaring throughout the base. Red warning lights flashed in every hallway. Tommy had never heard these alarms before. He stopped mopping and looked around, confused. Over the loudspeaker, a voice announced a security lockdown. All civilian personnel were ordered to report to designated safe areas immediately. Tommy grabbed his cleaning cart and started heading toward the civilian assembly point. But as he turned the corner, he came face to face with someone he had never seen before. The man was tall, muscular, and wearing a uniform Tommy didn't recognize. Eyes were cold and calculating. In his hands was a weapon Tommy had only seen in movies. The stranger looked at Tommy's cleaning uniform and smiled wickedly. "Perfect," he said in an accent Tommy couldn't place. "You're going to help me get where I need to go." The man grabbed Tommy's arm roughly and pushed him down a different hallway, away from the safe area. Tommy's heart pounded as he realized this was no drill. Real danger had come to Fort Braxton, and somehow he was right in the middle of it. The armed intruder forced Tommy deeper into the base, using him as a human shield. Tommy's legs felt weak, but he kept walking. The man's grip on his arm was painful, and the weapon remained pointed at his back. "Where's the command center?" the intruder demanded. Tommy's mouth was dry. He had cleaned these halls for years, but he had never been inside the restricted areas. "I don't know," he whispered. "I'm just a janitor." The man cursed in his foreign language and shoved Tommy harder. They passed several security cameras that had been damaged. Wires hung loose from the walls. This intruder had been planning this attack for a long time. As they walked, Tommy heard gunshots echoing from other parts of the base. His mind raced to his coworkers in the cafeteria. The friendly guards who always said good morning, the young soldiers who treated him with respect. Were they safe? The intruder suddenly stopped at a corner and peered around carefully. Tommy could hear heavy footsteps approaching, military boots on polished floors. The sound every janitor knows well. But these footsteps were different. They moved with purpose and precision. "Shut up and don't move," the intruder whispered harshly in Tommy's ear. The weapon pressed against Tommy's ribs. Tommy held his breath and tried to stay calm. His mother had always told him to pray when he was scared. So he prayed silently, asking for protection for everyone on the base. The footsteps grew closer. Tommy could hear quiet voices speaking in what sounded like code. Professional military language he had heard before, but never understood. These weren't regular base soldiers. These voices had a different quality. Sharper, more focused. Through a crack in the wall, Tommy saw them. 3 men in black uniforms he had never seen before. Their equipment looked advanced, expensive. They moved like shadows, checking every corner, every doorway. Their weapons were held ready, but they handled them like extensions of their own. Bodhies, the lead soldier, made hand signals to the others. No words were needed. They had trained together so much that they could communicate in complete silence. Tommy watched in fascination despite his fear. He had never seen anything like this. The intruder beside Tommy was breathing heavily now. Tommy realized that this dangerous man was actually afraid of whoever was hunting him. These soldiers in black weren't ordinary defenders. They were something special, something the intruder hadn't expected to face. One of the black uniformed soldiers stopped directly around the corner from where Tommy and the intruder were hiding. Tommy could almost feel the soldier's presence, trained eyes scanning. It was only a matter of time before they were discovered. The soldier in black stepped around the corner with his weapon raised. Tommy found himself staring into the most intense eyes he had ever seen. The soldier's face was painted with camouflage, but Tommy could see intelligence and determination. This was someone who had seen combat before. "Drop your weapon," the soldier said calmly. His voice was steady, professional. No fear, no anger, just complete control. The intruder tightened his grip on Tommy and pressed the gun harder, against his ribs. "Stay back, or the boy dies," the intruder shouted. Tommy could smell the man's sweat and fear. But the soldier in black didn't flinch. He kept his weapon trained on them both, waiting for the right moment. "You're surrounded," the soldier said. "Your partners are already captured. This ends here." Tommy realized there had been multiple intruders, and this special team had been hunting them all down. The base wasn't as vulnerable as it had seemed. The intruder's hand was shaking now. Tommy could feel the tremor through the weapon against his back. This man was losing control, which made him more dangerous. Tommy had watched enough movies to know that cornered criminals often did desperate things. "Know who you are," the intruder said to the soldier. "SAS, Special Air Service, British Special Forces." The soldier's expression didn't change, but Tommy saw something flicker in his eyes. Recognition, maybe? Or respect for the intruder's knowledge. "Then you know how this ends," the SAS officer replied. "Let the civilian go, and we'll talk." The intruder wasn't listening anymore. Tommy could feel the man's desperation growing. His grip was cutting off circulation in Tommy's arm. Suddenly, the intruder made his decision. He shoved Tommy forward, toward the SAS officer, and raised his weapon to fire. Tommy stumbled, his cleaning cart crashing into the wall. Bottles of cleaning solution shattered on the floor. The SAS officer moved faster than Tommy thought possible. In one fluid motion, he pulled Tommy behind cover and returned fire. The sound was deafening in the narrow hallway. Tommy's ears rang, and his heart hammered against his chest. When the shooting stopped, Tommy looked up. The intruder was down, no longer a threat. The SAS officer was checking the area, making sure it was secure. His training and experience had saved both their lives. The officer turned to Tommy, his weapon now lowered. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Tommy shook his head, still too shocked to speak. The officer knelt beside him, checking for injuries. His hands were gentle but thorough. Professional medical training was part of his background too. "What's your name, son?" the officer asked. Tommy managed to whisper, "Tommy Martinez. I work here, clean the floors." The SAS officer nodded and helped Tommy to his feet. "You did good, Tommy. Stayed calm when it mattered." The SAS officer spoke into his radio, reporting the situation. Tommy heard codes and military terms he didn't understand, but he caught the important parts. The immediate threat was over. The base was being secured. "Tommy," the officer said, "I need you to listen carefully. There might be more threats on this base. We've neutralized the main group, but we have to check every building, every room." Tommy nodded, still processing everything that had happened. The officer introduced himself. "I'm Captain James Morrison. Says we were called in when intelligence detected this planned attack." Tommy was surprised. He had never imagined that foreign special forces worked with American military bases. Captain Morrison explained that the intruders were part of an international terrorist cell. They had been planning to steal classified military technology. The attack on Fort Braxton was months in the making, but intelligence agencies had been tracking them. "The problem is," Morrison continued, "we believe there's still one more intruder. Somewhere on the base, he separated from the group when the alarms went off. We've been searching, but this base is large." Tommy realized why the captain was telling him this. He knew the base better than anyone. Morrison pulled out a detailed map of Fort Braxton. "You know every corner of this place, don't you?" Tommy looked at the map and nodded. He had cleaned Every building, every hallway, every storage room. He knew which doors were always locked, which areas were restricted, where someone could hide. If you were trying to avoid security and steal classified information, where would you go? Morrison asked. Tommy studied the map carefully. He thought about the places he cleaned that were isolated, away from main traffic areas. The old storage building behind the motor pool, Tommy said finally. It's supposed to be empty, but I've seen lights there sometimes at night. And there's a tunnel that connects it to the main communications building. They use it for cable runs. Morrison's eyes sharpened with interest. Show me on the map. Tommy pointed to the building and traced the tunnel route with his finger. Morrison immediately understood the significance. Someone could access classified communications from that hidden location. The captain spoke into his radio again, calling his team. Tommy heard him describing the target location and requesting backup. But then Morrison looked at Tommy with a serious expression. The problem is timing, Morrison said. If this last intruder realizes his partners are captured, he might try to destroy evidence or trigger some kind of backup plan. We need to move fast, and we need someone who knows exactly how to get there without being detected. Tommy understood what the captain was asking. You want me to show you the way? Morrison nodded. It's dangerous, and I won't order you to help. But you know this base better than any of us. Could save lives. Tommy thought about his co-workers, his friends on the base. He thought about his family and how his father had served in the military years ago. His father had always said that when people needed help, you stepped up, even when you were scared. I'll help, Tommy said quietly. Captain Morrison studied his face for a moment, then reached into his gear bag. He pulled out a military rifle and checked it carefully. The weapon looked deadly serious in his trained hands. Have you ever fired a weapon before? Morrison asked. Tommy shook his head. His father had taken him hunting a few times, but only with an old shotgun. Nothing like this military equipment. Morrison gave Tommy a quick lesson in basic weapon safety. This is the safety. This is how you hold it. This is how you aim. But Tommy, listen to me carefully. Your job is to guide us and stay safe. Only use this if there's no other choice. Tommy's hands trembled as he took the rifle. It was heavier than he expected, and the metal felt cold against his palms. Morrison showed him how to carry it properly, how to keep it pointed in a safe direction. Why are you giving this to me? Tommy asked. Morrison's expression was serious but kind. Because you're not just a civilian anymore. You're part of this mission. And every member of my team needs to be able to protect themselves and others. Then something unexpected happened. Captain Morrison, this experienced Special Forces soldier who had probably fought in wars around the world, took a knee in front of Tommy. He looked up at the young janitor with respect in his eyes. Tommy Martinez, Morrison said formally, you're about to risk your life to protect this base and everyone on it? That makes you a soldier in my book. And I want you to know that I'm honored to serve alongside you. Tommy felt tears in his eyes. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. No one had ever treated him as an equal, as someone important. The SAS captain saw something in Tommy that Tommy had never seen in himself. Morrison stood up and spoke. Into his radio, one more time. This is Morrison. I'm proceeding to target location with local asset. Tommy Martinez, base maintenance staff, is now attached to our team for this operation. The voice on the radio responded immediately. Copy that, Morrison. Martinez is now under SAS protection. Full operational support authorized. We realized that in a matter of minutes. He had gone from mopping floors to being part of an international military operation. Morrison handed Tommy a radio earpiece. Stay in contact with us at all times. If something goes wrong, if you get separated, call for help immediately. We'll come for you. Tommy nodded and fitted the earpiece carefully. They began moving through the base toward the storage building. Morrison moved like a ghost, checking corners, watching for threats. Tommy tried to copy his movements, staying quiet, staying alert. The rifle felt more natural in his hands now. As they got closer to their destination, Tommy could see lights. In the storage building windows, someone was definitely there. Morrison held up his hand, signaling Tommy to stop. Through the radio, Tommy heard the captain coordinating with his team members who were moving into position around the building. This is it, Tommy, Morrison whispered. You've brought us this far. Now we finish the job." Tommy led Captain Morrison through a service entrance he knew was rarely locked. They moved quietly through the storage building, past old equipment and forgotten supplies. Tommy knew exactly where to step to avoid creaking floorboards. Through the radio, they could hear Morrison's team surrounding the building. Professional voices reporting positions, confirming visual contact. Tommy felt like he was part of something much bigger than himself. They found the tunnel entrance behind a stack of old filing cabinets. Morrison examined the opening and nodded. Approvingly. "Good intelligence, Tommy. This is exactly what we needed." Tommy felt proud that his knowledge was actually valuable to these elite soldiers as they entered the tunnel. Tommy could hear electronic equipment humming ahead. Computer fans, radio transmitters, the kinds of sounds he had learned to recognize during his years of cleaning around technology. Someone had definitely set up operations here. Morrison signaled for Tommy to stay back while he advanced. Through the earpiece, Tommy heard the captain coordinating the final approach. "Target acquired. Electronic equipment confirmed. It's moving to apprehend." The arrest happened quickly and quietly.
Ow.
The last intruder surrendered without a fight when he realized he was completely surrounded by SAS operators. Tommy watched as they secured the man and began documenting the stolen information he had been trying to transmit. "Captain." Morrison returned to Tommy with a smile. "Mission accomplished, soldier. Your knowledge of this base made all the difference. We couldn't have done this without you." Back at the main command building, Tommy found himself in a room full of high-ranking officers, American generals, British intelligence officials, FBI agents. They all wanted to thank him personally for his help in stopping the attack. But the moment that meant the most came when Captain Morrison presented him with an official commendation. "Tommy Martinez," he said in front of everyone, "you proved today that heroes come from all walks of life. You showed courage, intelligence, and dedication under the most difficult circumstances." Tommy's mother and sister were brought to the elite ceremony. His mother cried when she saw the medal they gave him. His sister recorded everything on her phone. Proud of her brother who had helped save the military base, the base commander offered Tommy a new job in security, with better pay and full benefits for his family. But more importantly, he offered Tommy the chance to continue his education with full military scholarship support. 6 months later, Tommy was enrolled in college again, studying criminal justice and cybersecurity. He kept the rifle Captain Morrison had given him, properly licensed and stored. As a reminder of the day his life changed forever, he still visited Fort Braxton regularly. But now as a security consultant rather than a janitor, the soldiers who had barely noticed him before now greeted him as a hero. Young recruits asked to hear his story. Tommy learned that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when the situation demands it. He learned that courage isn't about not being afraid, but about doing what's right despite the fear. Most importantly, he learned that everyone has value and something unique to contribute. Captain Morrison stayed in touch, sending postcards from missions around the world. Each card had the same message: once a soldier, always a soldier, proud to have served with you. Tommy kept every card, reminders of the day an SAS officer took a knee and called him a brother in arms.